The morning mist sat heavy over the forest near Dead Elk Ridge, a quiet corner of Montana known for its thick pines, wild bears, and long, lonely winters. A hiker named Carla Jennings was following a faded game trail with her German Shepherd when she spotted something odd between the trees. It looked like rust, a patch of metal where nothing should be. She stepped closer. There, hidden behind thick undergrowth and half buried in leaves, was an old pickup truck. It wasn't just abandoned, it was haunting. The paint had long peeled away, and vines had curled through the broken windows. But the license plate was still clear. BNF 2347. Carla squinted at it and froze. She recognized it from a flyer she used to see pinned to the grocery store bulletin board. The truck belonged to Tommy Granger, the man who vanished on a hunting trip 7 years ago. Carla's heart began to race. She backed away and pulled out her phone. 911, what's your emergency? The dispatcher answered. I found a missing man's truck, and I think there's someone inside. 2 hours later, the scene buzzed with police, forest rangers, and curious locals standing behind yellow tape. Sheriff Kent Holbrook stood in silence as the back door of the truck was carefully opened. Inside, slumped over the front seat, was the body of a man. But it wasn't Tommy Granger. This man had been dead a long time. A skeleton mostly with tattered clothes and empty sockets. But what chilled everyone was that in his jacket pocket was a wallet. Inside, a driver's license. The name read Aaron Carter. Aaron Carter had been Tommy's best friend and the last person to see him alive. Sheriff Holbrook made the call that changed the case's future. Get me Detective Ray Harrington, he said. Tell him it's urgent. 2 days later, Helena Police Department Detective Ray Harrington was a man who believed in old-fashioned work, listening carefully, digging through records, and trusting his gut. He'd solved over 30 cold cases, many of which no one else wanted to touch. When he got the call about Tommy Granger's truck being found, his interest peaked. When he heard Aaron Carter's body was inside it, he was already packing his overnight bag. I've been waiting for something like this, Ray told his assistant as he loaded his files. This case never sat right with me. Back in 2018, Tommy Granger, a 38-year-old mechanic and avid hunter, had gone out for a weekend trip with Aaron Carter, a local hardware store owner. They were friends since high school, known to hunt together every season. But that year, Tommy never came back. Aaron said he went to relieve himself in the woods and never returned. I waited and searched until dark, Aaron had told the original detectives. Then I went for help. Search parties combed the woods for weeks. No blood, no gear, no clues, and no truck. The assumption was that Tommy either wandered off and was eaten by wildlife, or decided to vanish and start over somewhere new. But now, Aaron's remains were in the very truck Tommy had supposedly driven. Ray arrived in Dead Elk Ridge the next morning. Ray crouched by the truck. The path in and out was almost invisible, only visible to someone who knew the forest well. The windows were busted, but the door was locked from the inside. That meant no one entered after Aaron died. The autopsy report had just come in. Aaron Carter had likely died of a gunshot wound to the chest. A bullet was found lodged in the seat below him. Small caliber. Time of death, approximately 6 years ago. So he didn't die the same year Tommy vanished, Ray muttered. But a year later, the confusion deepened. Why would Aaron be found dead in Tommy's truck a full year after Tommy had already gone missing? Ray turned to the forensics team. Dust for prints and dig deep in that glove compartment. I want everything logged. The mechanic on site reported that the battery and ignition had been tampered with, likely disabled so no one could drive it away. That wasn't an accident. This wasn't nature. This was a setup. Tommy's wife, Lisa, opened the door slowly when Ray knocked. She looked older than her 42 years. Grief had clearly weathered her. Detective Harrington, she said with a tired smile. Are you really reopening the case? I am, and I need to ask you about Aaron Carter. Lisa swallowed hard. He was a snake, smiled to your face and stole behind your back. Did he and Tommy fight? She nodded slowly. About money at first, then about something else. A week before the trip, Tommy found out Aaron was involved with someone. He wouldn't tell me who, but he said he was going to confront him. Any idea what about? No, but Tommy was angry. Said if Aaron didn't tell the truth, He'd go public with what he knew. That was the motive Ray had been looking for. Back at the station, Ray laid out the timeline on the board. 2018. Tommy goes missing. Aaron claims innocence. 2019. Aaron disappears without a trace. 2025. Both are found in the same truck. Ray stared at the map, then at the forest photos. Something didn't line up. Aaron had told the old investigators he parked the truck near the East Ridge, but the truck was found on the west side, miles away, so the truck was moved. Someone came back after both men were gone and tried to bury it. Ray tapped his finger against the photo of the truck and muttered to himself, "You're trying to hide two bodies in plain sight, but you messed up, didn't you?" Detective Ray Harrington stood at the edge of the forest again, this time with a clearer picture in mind. The discovery of Aaron Carter's body inside Tommy Granger's missing truck had stirred more questions than answers, and Ray, who had built his reputation on asking the right questions, was ready to dig deeper. The media had caught wind of the discovery. Headlines read, "7-year-old mystery explodes. Second body found in Hunter's truck. Vanished man's truck unearthed with another corpse inside." But Ray wasn't interested in headlines. He was interested in truth. Ray returned to Helena the next morning to speak with Dr. Lyle Green, the county's head medical examiner. Dr. Green was in his late 60s, with a sharp eye and a calm voice. He had reviewed thousands of bodies in his time, but Aaron Carter's death caught even him off guard. "We pulled a .22 caliber bullet from his chest," Dr. Green said, showing Ray a labeled bag. "Entry was clean, no exit wound, close-range shot. Any signs of a struggle?" Dr. Green shook his head. "None. He was likely seated when he was shot. No broken bones, no defensive wounds. Probably didn't even see it coming." Ray frowned. "You think he knew his killer? Or at least didn't expect the shot? The body position suggests he bled out in that seat." Ray took a deep breath. "So either he came to that truck on his own, or someone lured him there. Either way, they left him to rot." Ray met Lisa Granger again to ask more about Tommy and Aaron's relationship. "Did your husband ever mention something Aaron had done?" Ray asked. Lisa hesitated. "Tommy didn't trust Aaron anymore. He said Aaron was mixed up with people who weren't just hunters." "Like who?" She looked away. "There was a rumor that Aaron owed money, big money, and Tommy suspected he was using their hunting trips to move something illegal. Drugs? Maybe. I didn't ask. I just know Tommy said if something happened to him, Aaron would be the first to check." Ray pulled out a small notebook. "Did Tommy have any enemies besides Aaron?" Lisa nodded. "One, his cousin, Chad Granger." Ray raised an eyebrow. "Family? Yeah, barely. Chad and Tommy grew up like brothers, but they had a falling out 10 years ago over their grandfather's land. Chad thought Tommy got more than he deserved. They hadn't spoken in years." Ray made a mental note. Chad Granger just entered the suspect pool. That night, Ray sat alone in the dusty archives room. He flipped through the 2018 investigation files, handwritten witness reports, forest maps with marked trails, blurry photographs from the original search. Something odd stood out. Aaron Carter's original statement said they set up camp near the Eastern Ridge, close to Beaver Hollow, but a wildlife camera mounted near there, belonging to a local conservation group, had captured only one man walking back down the trail that weekend. It wasn't Tommy. It was Aaron. Worse, the timestamp showed him hiking out the next day, with a large black duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Ray flipped through the report. That detail had been noted, but never investigated. Aaron had claimed it was filled with leftover supplies. Ray muttered, "That was no bag of snacks." Ray paid a visit to Chad Granger at his ranch outside of town. Chad was tall, with a long beard and a scar over his left eyebrow. He didn't seem shocked about the recent news. "About time someone found that truck," Chad said, lighting a cigarette. "You don't seem surprised." Chad shrugged. "Tommy always said if something happened, it'd be because of Aaron. Guess he was right. You two didn't get along, did you? Not after Grandpa's land got split. Tommy got the cabin and a share of the lumber business. I got nothing but rocks and pine cones." Ray leaned forward. "Where were you in 2019, the year Aaron went missing?" Chad didn't blink. Out in Idaho, working the oil fields. Got pay stubs if you want them. Ray nodded. I might, but something in Chad's tone made Ray pause. The man didn't grieve his cousin. He almost sounded satisfied. Ray returned to the evidence locker, where a deputy had finally cracked open the glove compartment from the truck. Inside was a torn-up photograph, water damaged but still readable. It showed Tommy and Aaron standing outside a small cabin with a third man whose face had been scribbled out with ink. Ray flipped it over. On the back was a scribbled note. He knows. We need to shut this down. There was no name, but Ray had a gut feeling that whoever was scratched out was the real key to the case. He enlarged the image at the lab. A tattoo on the man's arm peeked through the ink. A black eagle with spread wings. Ray's eyes narrowed. He'd seen that before. On the arm of a known meth dealer arrested in Helena in 2019. The puzzle pieces were coming together. Tommy had discovered Aaron's criminal ties. Aaron killed Tommy, but someone else, the man with the eagle tattoo, and killed Aaron. Why? Because maybe Aaron had gotten sloppy, or maybe he'd tried to come clean. Detective Ray Harrington sat in his office late into the night, staring at the zoomed-in image of the man in the photo, specifically the eagle tattoo inked on his forearm. The same eagle had shown up in a dozen mugshots over the years tied to the backwoods drug trade in the region. That tattoo belonged to Dale Mercer, a known meth cook with a history of violence and ties to several unsolved disappearances. Ray had a name. Now he needed to find the man. By morning, Ray was digging through old arrest logs at the jail. Dale Mercer had been arrested in early 2019 for possession and resisting arrest. He posted bail and then vanished shortly after Aaron Carter's disappearance. Guy ghosted his parole officer, sold his trailer, and skipped town, the clerk told Ray. Never showed for court. There's still an open warrant. Ray nodded. Let's reopen that file and flag him for immediate pickup. The pieces were aligning. Dale had the motive, the opportunity, and the means. Ray believed Dale had killed Aaron Carter, but he still didn't know why, or what connection Tommy Granger had to it all, beyond being an innocent man caught in a deadly web. Later that day, Ray stopped by Lisa Granger's house again. This time, she was more open. I lied to you before, she said quietly, looking down. Tommy knew something dangerous. He found something on that last hunting trip. Ray leaned forward. What did he find? Lisa swallowed hard. A campsite with chemicals, bags of pills, guns. He took pictures. He said they were cooking meth up in the hills. Did he report it? He said he was going to confront Aaron first, make him walk away from it. Said he owed him that much. Ray cursed under his breath. That was a mistake. Lisa nodded, tears in her eyes. He thought Aaron would listen, but the day before the trip, Tommy told me, if anything happened to him, it wouldn't be an accident. Ray scribbled fast. Did Tommy ever send those pictures to anyone else? Yes, she said. He emailed them to his lawyer. Said he wanted them documented just in case. Ray stood immediately. Who's his lawyer? Within the hour, Ray was seated across from Cynthia Boone, Tommy's old lawyer. She opened a private folder and slid over a printout of 6 photographs. Blurry but damning, the images showed a makeshift meth lab set up deep in the Montana woods. One photo showed Dale Mercer, clear as day, stirring a barrel with thick gloves and a gas mask. Tommy sent these to me the night before he vanished, Cynthia said. Said he was scared but felt responsible. Ray stared at the images. There was no doubt now. This wasn't a random crime. Tommy had walked into a meth operation, possibly run by Dale and Aaron. Aaron had panicked, and then Dale cleaned up the loose ends. But why hide the truck? Why wait so long? Ray looked up. Did Tommy ever mention a hidden trail or old shed where they used to store hunting gear? Cynthia nodded. Yes, he said there was a second camp they used, about 2 miles off the main trail. Hard to find unless you knew the land. Ray was already reaching for his phone. That's where we'll go next. By evening, Ray and 2 deputies were pushing through thick brush with flashlights and GPS gear. It took over an hour, but they found it. A hidden shed with a collapsed roof and rusted lock. Inside, the stench of chemicals and mold hit them like a wall. Gas cans, burnt wires, crates of plastic tubing. This was no ordinary hunting camp. And then, under the floorboards, Ray found a third body. The remains were skeletal, wrapped in tarp, with an ID still intact. Jake Downing, a 22-year-old, reported missing back in 2016. Last seen with Aaron Carter. Ray's voice was calm but urgent as he radioed back. We found a body. Tommy Granger vanished in 2018 on a hunting trip with Aaron Carter. Granger's truck found buried in Northfield Hills in 2025. Inside Aaron Carter's decomposed body, shot in the chest with a .22. Photos provided by Granger's lawyer show illegal meth lab in Forest. Lab run by Dale Mercer, known felon, now missing since 2019. Third body found at alternate camp, ID'd as Jake Downing. All three victims had ties to Aaron Carter. Dale Mercer is now primary suspect in all three deaths. Ray sat back in his chair, eyes burning from staring at the evidence board. He'd uncovered a hidden drug operation, 3 murders, and a string of cover-ups that had haunted the woods for years. The hardest part? The killer was still out there. Ray looked at the photo of Dale Mercer again. You made a mistake, Dale, he said to himself. You buried a truck, but you didn't bury the truth. The next morning in Helena was gray and bitter, the sky threatening rain. Detective Ray Harrington stood by the newly sealed crime scene in the woods, a mile and a half from where Tommy Granger's truck had been unearthed. The body found in the hidden camp, Jake Downing, had officially been linked to Aaron Carter and Dale Mercer. The problem was, Mercer had disappeared without a trace. Again. Ray's instincts told him Mercer was still somewhere nearby. Maybe not in Helena, but definitely in Montana. Criminals like Dale didn't go far from familiar ground. They knew the back roads, the caves, the old mining towns. It was time to bring in help. Ray sat across from Special Agent Karen Voss, a tough, no-nonsense investigator with a sharp mind and a long memory. Mercer? She repeated after hearing the name. We've had eyes on him before. Thought he was dead. Wishful thinking, Ray muttered. He's alive and killing people. Karen opened her laptop and pulled up a list of flagged transactions and aliases. Let's assume he changed his identity. He'd need cash, a place to hide, and someone to protect him. Meth cooks don't work alone. Ray leaned forward. You think he's part of a network? Worse, she said. A family operation. Aaron Carter's widow, Denise Carter, hadn't spoken to anyone since her husband's body was discovered. But Ray convinced her to meet him at a quiet cafe on Main Street. She looked drained, pale, ashamed. I didn't know, she whispered. He told me he stopped using years ago. I didn't know he was cooking. I swear. Did he ever mention Dale Mercer? She hesitated. Yes. He said Dale was bad news, paranoid. He came by the house once, yelling. I thought Aaron was done with him. Ray watched her carefully. Did Aaron ever seem afraid of him? Yes, she admitted, especially after that last hunting trip. That afternoon, while combing through old trail cam footage submitted by local rangers, Ray spotted something. A truck. Not Tommy's truck. This was an old 1980s Ford with dents and a shattered rear window. It drove along the Flathead River Trail 2 weeks after Tommy disappeared. The date was October 2018. Ray zoomed in. The driver had a tattoo, an eagle, just visible as the man reached for the gear shift. Dale Mercer. But what shocked Ray more was the passenger, Aaron Carter, alive and tense, looking back at the trail behind them. Ray grabbed his phone. I've got proof Mercer was alive after the hunting trip, with Carter. They left together. Where were they going? Agent Voss asked over the phone. Flathead River Trail, Ray said. But that's hours away from where the truck was buried. This was a dump job. The real murder happened somewhere else. Ray, Voss, and a search team headed out early the next morning. The Flathead area was remote, known for its twisting river paths, deep woods, and forgotten cabins. They followed the river upstream until they found it, a burned-out trailer hidden behind a patch of wild pines. Inside were blackened barrels, scorched pipes, and melted chemical containers. Definitely meth, Voss said, covering her nose. This was their main lab. Ray crouched near a pile of ash and found something hard. a metal badge, half melted. On it was the name, Sheriff Tom Greaves. Voss stared. Greaves disappeared in 2017. Everyone assumed he drowned in the lake. Ray stood slowly. They've been doing this for a long time. Mercer and Carter were eliminating anyone who threatened to expose them. While the detectives cataloged the trailer, Deputy Marcus radioed from behind the ridge. Found a cave, he said. Looks like a campsite, but there's a map carved into the rock wall. Ray arrived a few minutes later. The carved map was primitive but clear. It marked a new trail, one leading from the Flathead site to a small hunting shed on the edge of a town called Crosby. Voss studied it. You ever heard of that town? Ray nodded. Yeah, but it's not on most maps anymore. It's a ghost town. River Camera, confirms Dale Mercer. Was a live post-hunting trip with Aaron Carter. Flathead River site confirmed as primary meth lab. Recovered evidence suggests Mercer involved in multiple disappearances. Burned trailer contains personal items of missing Sheriff Tom Greaves. Map found near lab may lead to safe house or final dump site. Crosby, Montana listed as probable hideout. Conduct search and seizure in Crosby. Issue updated warrant for Dale Mercer. Alert neighboring counties of possible fugitive. That night, Ray stood outside the sheriff's department, watching the rain begin to fall. He lit a cigarette, the first in months. Crosby, he whispered, let's see what you're hiding. He had a new destination, a clearer picture, and more bodies than he'd ever expected. But Ray Harrington wasn't giving up. Not when the truth was this close. Crosby, Montana, once a bustling mining town, now barely a memory. A handful of dilapidated cabins and rusted metal signs remained, swallowed by time and overgrowth. The only sign of recent life was a dirt road, uneven tire tracks leading toward the northern woods. Detective Ray Harrington and Agent Karen Voss pulled into town in an unmarked SUV just as the sun dipped behind the trees. The air was still, heavy with the scent of pine and damp soil. Everything about Crosby screamed forgotten, but to Ray it felt like a trap waiting to be found. This place gives me the creeps, Voss muttered, scanning the surroundings. We're too exposed. Ray nodded. Let's move fast. They followed the old map from the Flathead Cave and stopped at a worn-out log cabin, sitting on a slope. The windows boarded, the door chained shut. Ray examined the door. Chain's old, but the wood's scratched, like someone's been coming and going. With a loud snap, Voss cut through the chain using bolt cutters. Inside, dust and mold coated every surface. A broken chair, a torn mattress, and a rusted wood stove sat beneath cobwebs. But something was off. The floorboards were newer in the center of the room, too clean, too recently replaced. Ray tapped one with his boot. Hollow. He pried it open to reveal a small hidden space beneath. Inside were 2 duffel bags filled with cash, vials of unknown powder, and most importantly, a notebook. Ray flipped through it. The handwriting was frantic, scribbled in red and black ink. October 2018. Aaron's losing it. Keeps talking about Tommy's wife asking questions. Might have to deal with her too. Can't risk it. November 2018. Moved the truck. Jake's dead weight. Buried it deep. Aaron helped. Can't trust him much longer. January 2019. She knows. She knows about Tommy. Voss leaned in. This is a confession. Ray nodded grimly. And that she might be Denise Carter. Deputy Marcus was doing his own digging. He accessed hospital and pharmacy records under Denise Carter's name. What he found shocked him. In late 2019, Denise had visited the ER twice for falls. Once, she was admitted with a fractured wrist and a split lip. Domestic violence, Marcus whispered. He cross-checked the police logs. No reports were filed. But 2 weeks after the second hospital visit, Aaron Carter withdrew $20,000 in cash and told his employer he was taking some time off to hunt. 2 weeks after that, he vanished. Ray and Voss drove back toward Helena that night, their minds buzzing. Here's what I think happened, Ray said, gripping the wheel. Aaron and Dale lured Tommy on that hunting trip to kill him. Tommy found out they were cooking meth, maybe tried to stop them. They killed him, dumped the truck, and buried the evidence. Voss nodded. Then Jake Downing starts asking questions. He disappears. Then Aaron gets cold feet. Denise starts asking questions too. Maybe she threatens to go to the police. Dale decides she has to go next. Voss leaned back in her seat. Only Aaron doesn't follow through. Instead, he runs, and Dale kills him for it. Investigative report, April 14th, 2025. Missing persons linked to Tommy Granger. Disappearance. Hidden cabin in Crosby revealed new evidence, including Dale Mercer's personal notebook. Written entries reference Aaron Carter, Jake Downing, and Tommy's wife. Evidence suggests a pattern of silencing those connected to the 2018 disappearance. Denise Carter possibly witnessed or uncovered part of the operation. Aaron Carter feared for his life, went into hiding, eventually murdered by Mercer. Placed Denise Carter under protection. Released Dale Mercer's identity to the public, most wanted fugitive. Conduct a deep search around the cabin for possible grave sites. As Ray returned to Helena the following day, his phone buzzed. "Detective," Marcus said, "we got a hit." "Where?" "A bus station camera in Missoula. A man matching Dale Mercer's age and build boarded a Greyhound 4 days ago. But here's the thing. He was wearing a priest's collar." Ray's stomach dropped. "He's hiding in plain sight." Back at the church, Ray's eyes widened as it all clicked. "Tommy Granger," he said aloud. "He vanished in 2018. His wife? She kept going to that church, the one with the private shelter program." Voss looked up from her notes. "Are you saying Mercer's posing as a pastor now?" Ray nodded. "The church basement. We never searched it." Voss grabbed her gun. "Let's end this." April 15th, 2025, 7:42 a.m. Detective Ray Harrington stood in the parking lot of New Grace Fellowship Church, watching the sunrise reflect off its stained glass windows. The church had always been considered a safe space, clean, community-centered, generous, but now all of it felt like a lie. Agent Karen Voss joined him, pulling on gloves. "The shelter entrance is around the side. We need to be careful. If Mercer's armed and hiding here, this could get dangerous fast." They weren't alone. 2 sheriff deputies and a federal agent were with them. The church had been cleared for a maintenance check earlier that morning. Pastor Dale Mercer, if that was still his real name, was reportedly on the premises. The team approached the side of the building where the shelter access door sat flush against the brick wall. Ray knocked twice, gave the signal, and they entered. Inside the basement, a cool dampness crept through the walls. The hallway was lined with bunk beds, food storage, and stacks of clothing. Ray scanned the area, looking for anything that didn't belong. They reached the far end of the hallway. There was an old wooden door, no handle, just a hook lock and rusted hinges. "Break it," Ray said. Voss nodded, forced it open with a crowbar. The door groaned as it opened, revealing a dark room with a dirt floor and old concrete walls. The smell hit them first, earth and decay. And then the light from Ray's flashlight caught something, a large plastic tarp with a boot sticking out. The room was quiet. Everyone froze. "Secure the area," Voss ordered. The deputies stepped back, one of them immediately calling in the coroner. Ray moved toward the tarp slowly, kneeling beside it. He peeled it back, revealing a skeletal body in hunting clothes, what was left of Tommy Granger. Next to him, another smaller tarp. Inside was the decomposed body of another man, partially wrapped in what looked like a sleeping bag. They later confirmed it was Jake Downing, 2 men missing for nearly 6 years, buried under a church. Ray stood up, stunned. "He's been right here, this whole time." Pastor Mercer was in his office upstairs, drinking coffee and reading scripture when the officers walked in. He looked up and smiled. "Morning, gentlemen. Something I can help with?" Ray stepped forward. "You can start by telling us your real name, Dale." Mercer's face dropped. Voss placed him in handcuffs as Ray read him his rights. "We found the bodies, in the basement. You're done running." He didn't say a word, just lowered his head and let them take him. The following day, Ray met with Denise Carter again. She looked tired, years of grief and silence etched in her face. "I always thought Aaron knew something," she whispered. "He stopped sleeping, wouldn't eat, and that last night before he left, He told me if anything happened to him, I should never trust Dale. Ray nodded. Aaron tried to protect you, and Dale killed him for it. Tears rolled down her cheeks. He said he'd take care of me. I thought Dale was helping. I thought the church saved me. Ray leaned forward. You saved yourself, Denise, and now we can give Tommy the justice he deserved. 3 months had passed since the bodies of Tommy Granger and Jake Downing were discovered beneath the basement of New Grace Fellowship Church. The trial of Dale Mercer, also known as Daniel Humes, had become one of the most closely followed murder cases in Montana's recent history. In the courtroom, silence fell as Dale Mercer was escorted in by deputies. Gone was the calm, smiling pastor. He now looked frail, his eyes hollow, and his clerical collar replaced by a prison jumpsuit. Detective Ray Harrington sat in the back row, next to Denise Carter. He had promised her he would be there, and he kept his word. The prosecution's opening statement was powerful and precise. Dale Mercer used God's house to hide men he murdered. He deceived a community, buried truth in a basement, and built a life on silence and lies. Over several days, the jury heard from forensic experts, FBI agents, and even churchgoers. Most chilling of all were the recordings of Mercer's confession, collected during an unguarded moment with a prison counselor. He found out, Mercer had said. Granger found out about the shipments, meth coming in through the shelter drop-offs. We had a system, he was going to ruin it, and then a chilling pause. I didn't plan to kill him, but once you start lying, it gets easier. Denise Carter, trembling but resolute, took the stand. She looked directly at the jurors. My husband knew Mercer was dirty. I didn't want to believe it. Mercer said he'd protect me, told me Aaron was paranoid. I followed Mercer blindly, but I should have asked more questions. Ray watched her closely. She had come a long way, from grieving widow to the woman who brought down her husband's killer. The defense tried to paint Mercer as mentally unwell, influenced by a failing church in the pressure of keeping secrets. But the evidence was too strong. The financial records, the fake name, the bodies. On the fourth day of deliberation, the jury returned. The judge entered. Mercer remained still. On the charges of murder in the first degree, we find the defendant, Dale Mercer, guilty. The courtroom let out a collective breath. Denise clutched Ray's hand. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. On all counts, the judge confirmed, this court sentences Dale Mercer to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Ray stood with Denise and the Grangers as Tommy's remains were laid to rest properly. Denise held a single white lily. She stepped forward and placed it on the casket. I'm sorry it took so long, she whispered. Ray looked up at the sky, the clouds breaking open to let the sun through. Some truths take time, he said quietly, but they always come out. New Grace Fellowship Church was officially shut down and marked as a federal crime scene. The community held a vigil a week later, not to honor Mercer, but to remember those whose lives had been stolen. Ray went back to his small office in town, removed the case file from his desk, and closed it gently. Another long trail, finally resolved. But he didn't stop. There were other missing persons cases, other names, other trails to follow. Because somewhere, someone else was still waiting for justice, and Detective Ray Harrington wasn't done walking those trails.